Dear students and teachers from various colleges, a very happy good morning. PG Department of English by Tulisa Arts and Science College, Narikuni, Calicut, and KMO College, Kudavalli, affiliated to University of Calicut, have been arranging invited talks, international webinars to motivate students of English language and literature. Today, we have an eminent personality, an academician, Ameera Khamar, CK, who is working in the Shakra University, Saudi Arabia, for more than 10 years. She was a student of Farooq College, and after the completion of PG course, MA course from Farooq College, Autonomous Calicut, she went to the University of Shakra, Saudi Arabia, and she's attending various seminars and national seminars in various parts of the country. Today she is presenting a paper. She's reading a paper based on a very famous novel written by Deepak Unnikrishnan. We know Deepak Unnikrishnan'S is an Indo-Anglian writer who was born in Kerala and settled in Abu Dhabi. He's a very famous writer from Abu Dhabi, even though he's a Malayali. And today, Ameera Khamar reading a paper based on that novel, Temporary People, written by Deepak Unnikrishnan. It's a Pravasi story written by Deepak Unnikrishnan. We know the word Pravasi, and the Pravasi people, they are not getting a kind of settled life. They are living in Gulf country, sometimes coming to the native land, and so their life is just like the Malayalam word akkare, ikkare, akkare, ikkare, akkare, ikkare. Not a permanent life they are getting. So they are facing a number of problems in their daily life. Ameera Khamar also has experience as a Pravasi working in the Gulf University. So from her own experience, she is reading a paper based on the famous novel Temporary People. Let me invite Ameera Khamar to read her paper. Thank you.
A very warm welcome to all. I am Ameera Khamar, Assistant Professor in English, Ministry of Education, Saudi Arabia. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to get a chance to present a topic here as a part of the webinar. I'm going to read a paper based on the topic Portrayal of Pravasi Life and Diasporic Issues in the novel Temporary People by Deepak Unnikrishnan. Talking about the author, Deepak Unnikrishnan is a writer from Abu Dhabi. His book called Temporary People won the inaugural Restless Book Prize for New Immigrant Writing, the Hindu Prize and the Moore Prize. It is a book about the fractured lives of migrant laborers who moved from the coastal Indian state of Kerala to take out a precarious, high-risk, high-reward existence in the oil monarchies of the Gulf. We know that people migrate because of various things. For better opportunities, millions of people migrate every year by crossing oceans, deserts, rivers, and mountains. Elements of globalization boost this migration more. In the past time, diaspora had a different meaning. It was based on the people who were resided in the countries USA, UK, etc. And those people who migrated in these countries are rich. The diaspora writers only considered these rich people as the central theme of their work. In course of time, the meaning of diaspora and the people who live in these countries are given different meaning by the writers. They focused upon the different segments of people who live there. It includes whole class of people, like they include middle class people, workers, labor, sweepers, servants, etc. And Indian diaspora is the second largest diaspora in the world after the Chinese. There are at least 26 million Indians living in the diaspora today. Diaspora is a sense of community of people who come from same culture and context, usually a country, who are living outside of that country for whatever reason may be. Political generic term which describes the people who migrated from territories that are currently within the borders of Republic of India. It also refers to the dissidents. As mentioned earlier, India has the second largest diaspora in the world, and the largest concentration of Indian diaspora lies in the Middle East, followed by the USA, UK, Canada and Malaysia. Indian diaspora is an important part of India's soft diplomacy. It contributes to the growth of development of country of their residents. It also plays an important role in the field of science and technology, and also emerged as a significant source of the trade and investment back in India. Apart from above, it is the source of large inflows of remittance, and according to the World Bank, Indian diaspora is going to be the largest earner of the world in the next few years. Immigration means moving to a new country to live there permanently. An immigrant is a person who leaves his or her country to live in another country. Immigrants settle in a country intending to stay there permanently and become citizens. There is a difference between migrant and an immigrant. Migrant is a person who moves from one place to another within a country. Immigrant is a person who moves from one country from another. There is one more category of people who leave their country and settle down in another country. These non-immigrants include students, temporary workers, visitors, and others who are in foreign country temporarily, where their visa allows them to stay for as a limited amount of time. We have two categories of immigrants: lawful permanent residents and refugees. Now let's talk about something about immigrants and their problems. Irrespective of one's background, settling to a new region poses many challenges. There are some experiences that are common for migrants across the globe. While immigrants to Middle East may face some or all of these issues, the country has a range of features which can help to make the transition smoother. Here we will look at those issues and how to resolve them. Language barrier. It's no great surprise that language tops the list of issues facing immigrants to stay in any country. Being able to communicate or not affects every area of life in which we have to interact with others, from jobs to schooling to simply finding your way around or buying food. Learning a native language is essential. Both the US and Canada have more than one major language like Spanish and French, and several minor ones. In the case of Canada, French is an official language recognized by the government. If you speak English poorly, but French likes a native, Canada is the great option. Then the next barrier is something about employment. The next barrier that many new immigrants commonly cite when starting life in a new country is finding a suitable employment. Don't forget the point made in the last session. Your language skills could be a demand in a variety of settings. from the international financial sector to government bodies, where interrupts may be in desperately short supply. However, many new immigrants face two particular problems: getting their credentials recognized and relevant local work experience. This can be a catch-22 situation, which many immigrants find almost impossible to break. In Canada, it's possible to start the process of getting your credentials recognized before you enter the country and find relevant work experience opportunities after you land. Then, housing. A big priority for anybody moving to a new area or country is to secure housing. Language barriers can be a big part of the problem for immigrants, but lack of local knowledge or how the housing market works in your new country can also present a problem. Research in advance is a big part of solving this problem, and the internet allows you to explore the local situation more so than in the past. Again, national and local government agencies will usually offer advice whichever country you choose and may have specific programs for newcomers. In the case of Canada, the National Housing Agency has a dedicated section for immigrants to explore both the process and the important information. Now, access to services. The type, range, and the quality of services available in your new country are likely to be different to that of your native country. Most immigrants admit that knowing what is available in the first place is a huge barrier. Services which pose the biggest hurdles include health care, legal advice, and access to mental health or social services. Language can often be an underlying part of this problem once again and again. Research in advance can make easier to access all kinds of services in your new country. In most countries, social service department should be your first spot to call for help with these issues. If language is still an issue in the early days, it's likely that interpreters will be available via social services to explain your rights and how and where to start accessing relevant helps to services. Then, transportation issues. Access to transportation can be essential in that it will make access to education and employment far easier. Immigrant faces particularly problems in this respect on two levels. Firstly, your driver's license may not be recognized in your new country, which means there may be costs associated with becoming qualified. Secondly, that language barrier can, again, make understanding or even finding useful local public transit services a hard task. Now, cultural differences. This is not necessarily the first on the list of practical considerations for immigrants, and housing, jobs, transport, and services are naturally a priority. However, many immigrants report that on arrival, it is the cultural difference that really make a big impression. This can range from social customs to more significant issues such as attitudes towards gender, religious diversity, ethnicity, sexuality, which can all be vastly different in a new country. This can raise a host of problems for both immigrants and the people they interact with. It can also lead to a sense of isolation for immigrants and even affect mental health negatively. It's important to accept that values will be different and that this is something that you cannot control. Accepting different values doesn't mean you have to take them on as your own, but you may need to learn to respect them in others. Then, problem kids. Parents experience two different issues when bringing their children to a new country. Children are likely to be quickly immersed into a new culture through their schools, and many begin to begin to seem foreign to their own parents. Firstly, remember it doesn't matter where you come from. Teenagers seems like aliens, never mind foreigners. It's important that you find a balance between teaching your children to respect your own cultural standard and values and allowing them to integrate. Another important point is prejudice and racism. This is a sad feature of the immigrant experience across the world. However, with progressive laws and an increasingly diverse community, Canada has a lot to recommend it. Support services include social services, community and peer groups, along with a modern police force that has strong diversity and anti-racism policies, which are all available to help these facing issues of racism. There are local national groups that work to combat racism and discrimination on the ground of race is outlawed under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Another one is isolation. Missing the support of friends, family, and extended social circle is being a big factor for most migrants. Those who come from societies where traditional support structures within the communities are strong can find that they feel lost, alienated, and disoriented when moving to a Western country where individualism is often prized over family. Canada does, in fact, have a diverse population, and major cities have communities from many different countries. And the last one, but not the least, is the weather. This factor is another that people may overlook when moving to a new country. Canada is associated in many people's minds with the cold weather and snow, but this is something of misconception. A massive country spanning the breadth of a continent, Canada's climate is as diverse as its people, ranging from hot, dry prairies to the Arctic climate in the far north. The country experiences highs of 35 degrees Celsius in summer and lows of minus 25 degrees Celsius in winter, depending on where you choose to live. The most populated region in the south, along with the border of the U.S., tends to be more moderate in range, particularly in the coastal regions. In the west, British Columbia has a temperature. The British Columbia has a temperate climate similar to the UK and Western Europe. For most immigrants, adapting to the climate will be necessarily wherever they settle, and Canada offers plenty of choices. Now let's have a look how the novel Temporary People work as a Pravasi novel. In this novel, Temporary People, Deepak Unnikrishnan try to link stories about immigrant workers in the United Arab Emirates. The Hindu writes, Temporary People is one part dystopia and one part nostalgia. It's the brutal dashing of hopes of every aspirant Pravasi. Which means Temporary People is a novel about immigrant workers in the UAE, a country in the Middle East. Temporary is used to describe something that is not permanent or lasts only for a short time. The word temporary, its roots are from the Latin word tempus, which means time or season. Hence, the suggestive meaning of the title of this novel denotes to an employee who is not permanent. In contrast, conditions for an immigrant worker in the UAE are often grossly and deplorable. Deepak Unnikrishnan'S debut work of fiction, Temporary People, weaves together 28 linked short stories that explores the rest experience encountered by immigrant laborers hailing predominantly from the Asian subcontinent. According to Deepak Unnikrishnan, 80% of the population in UAE is from foreign nations. the home they have left behind, and illuminates how temporary status affects relocations as significant job for individuals from districts that face visit deficiency of precipitation and inner floods. A few reasons like UP and Bihar, known as rustic movement from decades, the greatest business of vagrant labor in the development division, local work and farming. Financial development in India today relies on versatility of work. The commitment of vagrant laborers to national income is gigantic, yet there is minimal done in kind for their security. The urban work market treats them with pioneering lack of concern, extricating temporary people as a book about language. This book plays with language. Language defines the power of a person as the way of talking which defines you. The greatest problem that has been addressed in the temporary people is that Pravasi people are not traditional diaspora, as these are not considered as the citizens of that country. The novel does not revolve around the person, rather it covers people as a whole. The Arab countries like the United Arab Emirates, UAE, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait are moving towards the policies of health insurance being paid by migrant workers. The UAE imposes a degree validation fee over the migrant workers, whereas Saudi Arabia imposes a direct tax on the immigrant workers. There are several strategies that are continuously being adopted by Gulf countries to reverse the lower labor force. Participation of lower labor force, several GCC countries taking positive initiative to improve the conditions of migrant workers. The UAE has taken several steps since at the mid of 2000 to assist migrant workers in recouping unpaid wages. Diaspora people are prone to the fear that any time they can be fired out of their job, and the major problem is that the government cannot guarantee another job opportunity to these people. So they were in a position of dilemma about their survival place. That is the job and getting financial stability. The fear that always circulates in their mind of these people is the Arab countries can anytime make policies that can affect our lives. Diasporic studies have turned into significant discipline as of a rigorous committed research for 3 decades, and its multidisciplinary nature and its impact on worldwide legislative issues. Indian migration has been occurring for quite a long time, however, at one other time in the history. India has seen such enormous development of individuals from India to different parts of the world as in 19th and 20th century, as still it is continue. As it has already been mentioned in the introductory chapter that among the settlers of various nationality, Indian diaspora makes the second biggest group of people just next to Chinese. Possibly no other nation of this world is described with such a decent variety in its residents as India, as far as culture, including language, areas, religion, and social satisfaction. Uprooting or displacement from India also has been broadly shifted in connection with their historical circumstances, causes, and results of immigration from India, as much as the social attributes such as rank and class, religion, and semantic connections of these migrants. Indian diaspora in UAE is mostly an unexplored or little-known area, and Deepak Unnikrishnan'S book, Temporary People, is a milestone in the direction of providing representation to these people in the mainstream literature. Thank you all.